Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another brand new Nanmu model to take a look at, and it's not just any Nanmu model. As you can see, we've got the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors, and I would say that they're probably one of the most popular sort of designs for a Velociraptor that we've ever seen in the Jurassic Park franchise, so I'm sure there are many people looking forward to these, as I am. And what's even better is, after seeing some images of a few others online, I am just like floored by how nice these look. Nanmu may have given their best paint jobs so far to these raptors from what I've seen, but again, we won't really be able to tell until I pop these boxes open. However, as you can see, we have two different versions of these raptors, and yes, I did acquire both. We have kind of like your standard, normal, Isla Sorna versions over here, where they're just kind of wandering through the jungle, but then we also have the winter type version over here, and what you can see is obviously the paint schemes kind of flip-flop depending on the version that you get. So if you want the, kind of more summertime version, I guess you could say, you can have the female raptor here standing with a nice turn in the head, and the male kind of letting out a vocalization, it looks like, similar to what you see in Jurassic Park 3. But then if you want the, male kind of standing, turning there, and the female doing that, then you would have to go with the winter version. But the box art looks gorgeous. They really did a great job of creating the box art, giving it that nice image there behind it to really, again, create the setting that they're meant to take place in. And then if you turn the boxes around and we take a look at the back, you can basically see that the back shows an image of the raptors, and then again, the same thing's going to happen with this one. It basically shows off the figures and a nice image of them here on the back. So I'm beyond hyped. I've been waiting for a little while for these to arrive, so I don't think I can wait any longer. Let's pop these boxes open and check them out. So first of all, the bases, the raptors, everything comes wrapped in this nice paper here, and that's very common for the Nanmu models. They try to make them as safe and, carefully shipped as possible. And once you open this, you can see that I dropped it, first of all, but you can see that you actually have a little individual base for your raptors. So if you would prefer not to have it on the base, not to have it in that sort of diorama, you can put the raptors on these individual bases, which is really cool. You can see, again, White Queen 2.0 here on the underside, and then we have the other one, and I would obviously imagine it's going to be slightly different to accommodate the difference in the positioning of the legs. And then this one, you can see definitely, it's got like this little area where it's just a little earthy area that the raptor can stand on, and then a really nice wood look for the base. And then the underside says Blood Knight, so obviously we can tell which raptor would go on which base. This would be the male. For this set, that would be the female. So we'll move those over. And then we've also got the base itself. Now, this is the winter version, in case you haven't figured that much out so far. This is the winter version, which you can very clearly see everything looks a little bit dead here on the base. The base does look really good, though. But another thing that you actually have in this one is the snow. And as you can see, the snow doesn't come on the base itself. Nanmu had recently put up a little post on their Instagram and Facebook accounts, a little image basically showing off the fact that you would want to use some glue to kind of glue the snow on, and that's how you could do it. And I had seen some people making comments about how this was a bad idea, and even people putting laughing faces on Facebook for it. I think this is an awesome idea to do it this way, because this gives you the option to choose if you want the snow on it or not. Now, as much as I like the idea of the raptors in a snowy setting, you don't see that really on Isla Sorna. And I would love to have all of my raptors here in a nice image of all of them together, so I can kind of create like a diorama of the entire raptor group here all together like it's part of the pack. So I'm probably not going to add the snow to mine, because I actually like it looking this way, even if it does look a little bit different probably from the other one. I didn't necessarily want the snow on it, even if it would look really cool with it. I just don't think it would then blend with the other raptors to create the diorama I'd like to use it for. So I actually love the fact that they did it this way. And then we've got our very first raptor here, the male, and man, that is absolutely insane how good the paint job is on that. The sculpt, of course, I was very much so well aware was going to be really nice, but that paint job is seriously out of this world. Let's actually go ahead and put it on the smaller base. That's for the female. So we'll bring this in and we'll put it on this base for right now. There we go. Now we got it in. So there is the first of the two raptors, and even on that base, it does still look really neat. And then we also have the female, and yet again, wow, like, that is unreal how good these paint jobs are. I was so excited to actually see these in hand and in person, just because of the images I had seen of other people's online looked so unbelievably beautiful. And I can tell you with confidence that they in hand are some of the most beautiful Jurassic Park Velociraptors that I have ever seen and probably will ever see. After this, I don't know that there would be a need for any other Jurassic Park 3 Raptors to enter my collection. Of course, I'd probably buy them because I'm a sucker for these Raptors, especially the JP3 versions. I may not have this positioned correctly. Let's try to get these in here quick. There we go. That actually snapped in pretty easily. I just wasn't doing it right, apparently. But there is the winter version of both of the Raptors, and they honestly are absolutely unreal here in person. Like, easily my new favorite when it comes to any sort of a Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor in my collection, and that even outdoes the W Dragon version, which is amazing. Then we've also got the bases again for the more summer sort of versions of these Raptors, so we've got those here as well. And then I actually went ahead and put them all here on the base for the other version, so we can now see what these look like on the base and how nice the base is and everything. And just like with those others over there, the paint jobs and sculpt and detail, let's try to get them all in here, is absolutely incredible on the other versions here as well. Like, to tell you that I am impressed when it comes to this is an understatement. Like, I normally will tell you if a model is really good, I'll probably tell you that they've knocked it out of the park. Nanmu has actually knocked it straight out of the galaxy with this release. Like, I really am almost like at a loss for words at how nice these actually look in person. Of course, the only thing you'll notice that is missing on these Raptors is the fact that we don't have the quills on the back of the head, because Nanmu had stated that that was going to be a little too complicated to add to something like this. I feel like they probably would have, you know, potentially broken or something like that. I guess they could have made them flexible. You can always customize it yourself if you really want them on there, but I don't mind that they're not on there. I think it still looks pretty good. Without them, it's just, of course, that is the last thing that they really would have needed to be picture perfect. And the only other thing that you get in the packaging, of course, is the art card, which I should have brought in initially, but I was just so excited about the Raptors, I completely neglected the art cards. They are the same. You can see, depending on the Raptor, it doesn't change the position as far as, like, the color schemes go. Either way, it's this image here, which looks really nice. I always love the art cards. And then, of course, the back always sports my favorite part, which is that sort of hand-drawn image type look, which I am a massive, massive fan of. So I think that's just way back in the day when Robert Bacher had released his book and he had all those really cool hand-drawn sort of images like this of dinosaurs. I've just always loved it ever since then. So I guess we can thank Bacher for that. But again, these are absolutely phenomenal, and I have to get a closer look at them with you guys right now to show that. So let's jump to it. So if we begin with the female from the winter set, look at that. Like, once you can get it in a nice light and really take a look at the head sculpt and the paintwork, I feel like you can't be anything but absolutely blown away by the beauty of this Velociraptor. And the fact that they've released this, now showing how good of a job they can do on these Raptors. Oh man, I want them so badly to release the other Jurassic Park Raptors. Of course, like the Jurassic Park Raptors themselves, but the Lost World Jurassic Park Tiger Striped Raptors, like maybe a diorama with a few, and of course including the male and female versions. That would just be amazing. I would love that so much, because seeing how good of a job Nanmu has done on the JP3 Raptors gives me so much hope that they could absolutely pull off the best versions of the other Raptors from the franchise as well. Talk about a drastic improvement over their older Raptors. The Raptor squad they had released of the, Jurassic World Raptors, they were really nice, but not even remotely comparing to these. But you can see when you get nice and close, the skin texture looks absolutely phenomenal, and they have completely captured the appearance of the Jurassic Park 3 raptors perfectly. We even have that crest right here that you obviously associate with the JP Raptors. You can also see that we've got quite a bit of variation of color here on the face. They've added some nice washes as well as some, looks like maybe some dry brushing techniques here to really highlight all of the skin texture. And you can see that we also have the darker tone striping down, leading down. We have the red around the eye, and that as well has a little bit of that darker tone leading down. You can see the eye is a yellow and also sports a nice black pupil. And the actual texturing and detailing there around the eye also looks incredibly nicely done. You can also see that we have a nice gloss coat there as I'm kind of turning it, letting the light hit it. You can see the eye shining, which is really nice. The nostrils are sculpted out right there. And then on the inside of the mouth, you can see that we've got all of the teeth sculpted individually. Same deal for the upper jaw there on the inside of the mouth. And they're all painted very nice and very carefully as well. They all sport a nice glossy look. You can see the skin there as the mouth is opening on the side here, stretching a little bit. You can also see that has a nice dark pinkish tone and also sports a nice gloss coat. We can see the tongue there on the inside of the mouth a little bit, but that is definitely really nice looking. You can't get inside the mouth any further than that. The jaw doesn't articulate or anything, so you can't really get in there any further than that, but it does look really, really good. You can also see that we have some really nice skin texture here for the lower jaw, and yet again, lots of variation of color to that area. As you begin to move up here to the top of the head, you can see again more beautiful patterning, again with the light tones kind of, appearing up here and the dark tones, and there's looks like variations of grays as well as a nice light dry brushing potentially, or a wash. It's a little hard to tell. There's just so much coloration on this actually. You can see as we move down here into the body a little bit, we have small ridges sort of running down along the back, very small, sort of like scoots following the spinal column of the Velociraptor. You can also see that we continue to have that classic Jurassic Park 3 female patterning moving down. And one of the things that impresses me the most is how picture perfect they nailed the coloration of these raptors when it comes to the tones of color, because you can see that we have that sort of white look to it, but at the same time we also have those slight hints of like yellowish tones, which is exactly how the raptor looks in Jurassic Park 3. So they've really done their homework to give us probably, I would say, the best and most screen accurate paint job that you'll ever see on a female Jurassic Park 3 raptor model. You can even see that we have some of that pinkish tone here on the underside of the lower jaw, moving into the throat a little bit. As we continue to move down, you continue to see again those sort of stripes running along the side. You also have a darker striping, or I mean not even a darker but a bigger striping moving down along the back of the raptor. You can see a little bit of a turn here to the head and neck, and obviously a slight tilt as the raptor is letting out a vocalization. As you continue to move down, you can see that we have that larger patterning moving along the spinal column, the smaller patterning here moving along the side. You can see all sorts of cracks and crevices to the skin texture of the raptor has been brought out beautifully with a dark wash. We can see moving down here into the arms, we've got some nice muscle definition in the arms, and you can also see a striping effect moving down. As you move down into the hands, you can see some nice scoots running down the fingers, classic Jurassic Park Velociraptor hands right there. And you can also see that we have a nice reddish or like pinkish tone as you move down into the hands, and you can also see the nails are sculpted really nicely. They have a genuine sharp look to them. They're also painted beautifully with a light gray, or actually I should say a dark gray, but then there's a light dry brushing over them, sort of bringing the detail of those claws out quite nicely. As you move up here into the body, you can see some creasing and wrinkling there to the skin, kind of leading from the thigh up into the stomach region. You can also continue to see again the patterning, but there's even like some light pinkish tones showing up here and there as you move through the course of the raptor. It's just insanely impressive how good the paintwork is on this. As you move down, you can see the hip bone. You can also see the muscle definition in the thigh moving down. More, of course, of that patterning as you move down. You can also see even in the striping, there's variation of color. Looks like maybe there's even like some kind of like some grayish tones in that area as well. As you move down, you can see the knee. You can also see the calf muscle right there. Again, more striping moving down. And then you transition to a pinkish or reddish tone again for the foot, just like we did with the hands. You can see the same sort of paintwork there for the nails, again, with the nice dark tone, kind of like a dark gray or a black, and then dry brushed out beautifully with a lighter tone, and showing you how good the actual fine detail is, as well as how precise the paintwork is there for the nails. And they do all have, again, that really nice, genuine, sharp look to them. You can see some scoots moving down through the course of the foot as well, and yes, there are, of course, dew claws. And then as we move back out through the rest of the raptor, you have a very sharp turn to the tail. The tail completely curves back up and actually touches the side of the raptor right there. And we continue to, again, have that patterning moving out through the course of the tail of the raptor, and it just looks honestly perfect, if you ask me, when it comes to the coloration of a JP3 raptor. As you lead down here, you can see all of the skin texture and fine detail of the underside is also very impressive, extremely lifelike. You can even see a striping moving down through the course of the throat right there for the raptor. And then as you move down the course of the other side, you can see again the sculpting and paintwork here in the face is absolutely phenomenal. As you lead back, you can see the ear right there, and then you can see over here that the raptor's head is kind of turned away from us, so the skin's stretching a bit here on this side, but it's not going to look too different from what we had seen on the first side because the head isn't turned drastically enough. You can see a bit of a different positioning for the arm. The arm even kind of leads here so that the hand almost goes underneath the other hand, but you can see the arm is also held into the body very nice and naturally. You can see some more skin wrinkles and stuff over here of the stomach region. The raptor is kind of standing up tall. The legs aren't positioned really differently at all, honestly. It looks like they're almost in the exact same position, maybe slightly different, but that's not going to cause too much of a difference in the visual of the raptor to really make mention of. And then of course the tail curves away from us. So when it comes to a female Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor, that is honestly out of this world. Then we've got ourselves the male version. Now this of course would be the one that you would expect to see quills on the back of the head for. Again, unfortunately we don't have those, but like I said, I don't think it really takes away from the model very much, and it's something that could easily be applied if you really wanted them on there. You can see the nostrils on this one are sculpted nicely here on the tip of the snout, and there is a bit of a gloss coat in the nostrils, which is a really nice touch, something that I always love when any company adds that to their models. But again, when it comes to a Jurassic Park 3 male Velociraptor and the overall profile, that is as perfect as it can possibly get. The head sculpt is so nicely done. The fine detail of the head sculpt, the overall shape, everything is just honestly spot on to a Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor. And yet again, there's just a lot of variation of color here to the face of the raptor. You can see that we've got the really nice bluish tone there around the eye. You have these kind of lighter tones that sort of stripe up, again, exactly as you see on the male raptor. You can also see the eye, if I could stop shaking it, the eye is really nicely painted with a red, then given a little yellow and a black pupil. And of course, again, looking exactly as it does in Jurassic Park 3. We also have the red up here on the crest, and there's just so much paintwork on this. There's like honestly little areas of color that I'm just picking up on as we go, and I'm probably even missing some, like this little striping here above the eye. I just noticed that right now, something I didn't notice when I was taking a look at it before when it was down on the table. You can see some reddish tones here to the top of the head of the raptor, and that kind of follows along through the course of the body as you move down. Just like with the other one, you have a nice turn in the neck, but this is a lot sharper of a turn compared to what we had seen on the other one. We also have the mouth closed on this version, whereas the mouth was open on the other one. You do have that white stripe here moving down along the side of the Velociraptor, and you can see the ears sculpted out and painted. As you lead down here into the underside of the throat, you can see a lighter variation of color here for the underside of the throat. Again, really nice dark wash has been applied to highlight all of that detail perfectly. You have all sorts of creasing here in the texturing of the skin, as the raptor again has the head turned this way, so it would definitely be wrinkling that skin up really beautifully. And there's just a ton, just like with the female raptor, a ton of variation of color as you move down through the course of the body. There's just like really subtle differences in color that almost is hard to pick up on. I can see like those reddish tones. I can also see dark grays. I could see blacks. I can almost see other variation of color as well. There's even a little light dry brushing in the stomach region. It's really, really impressive when you look at this in person. Like, the actual paintwork of this is the type of paintwork you would expect to see on a model that was sent to a very expensive paleo artist to paint it up for you. It's insane to me that this is a factory paint job, which again continues to just show you how amazing Nanmu's final products really are. But as you move down, you can see the arms are held into the body very nice and naturally. Again, very nice positioning considering the pose of the raptor. I think that's exactly where you would want the arms to be positioned. You've also got some nice scoots, of course, running down the fingers, and the hands do have a little bit of a reddish tint to them there, a little reddish tone. You can especially see on the underside there of the hands and like the palms of the hands. The nails again look nice and genuinely sharp. They're also again painted with what looks to be a black and then kind of dry brushed over again with a lighter tone. You could see the detailing here of the stomach, again a little bit more skin wrinkling going on right there. Really nice paintwork, again bringing out all of the detail very nicely. We continue to have that stripe moving down through the course of the body here, moving down. You also have a darker striping here running along the spinal column, kind of opposite to the stripe that follows the body. You can see it striping down there along the course of the back. You've got nice muscle definition in the thigh, as well as again another super subtle striping moving down. As you lead down, you can see the knee. You can also see the calf muscle, still continuing with that really subtle striping moving down the course of the shin of the raptor. We again have that reddish tone here for the foot. It's a little bit darker, I think, than the reddish tone that we had for the female. And you can see the nails again look great. The sculpting of the foot looks really nice, scoots down the course of the toes, and I'm just equally as impressed with how vibrant the actual sculpt and detail is on this model. Again, compared to the paint apps. The paint apps are amazing, but the actual fine detail on this is so high quality. But as you move out through the course of the tail, you can see that striping effect. You can also see that white stripe continuing to lead out, and then we lead out here and transition to a reddish tone for the tip of the tail. You can even see some striping here on the underside. Man, it's just unbelievable how much paintwork is on this model, on both of these models. And then again, when you look at it from a distance, it's exactly as you see with the raptors, because sometimes when you look at them, they have a grayish visual. Other times you look at them, they almost look a little brown, kind of similar to the Spinosaurus, actually, from Jurassic Park 3. But you can see all of that again on these Nanmu versions. It's just, I can't say it enough, it's perfect. And then you can see the opposing side of the head again looks really good. We have that nice gloss coat for the eye right there. The stripe again leading out here as we move down through the course of the neck. You've again got that nice turn in the head and neck of our raptor. You can see the arm is still held into the body, of course, on this side in a slightly different position compared to what we see on the opposing side. The leg, though, is stepping forward over here, so it's obscuring the stomach a little bit more over here compared to what we had seen on the first side. Same style of paintwork, of course, moving down. Really nice foot sculpt. You've got the sickle claw held up in the air as our raptor is preparing to do some damage to somebody. And then as you lead out through the length of the tail, you can see again the skin stretching here from the tail down into the thigh. You can also see some really smooth transitions between colors as well. And then you lead out with that really beautiful, very elegant curve to the tail of the raptor. And again, the fine detail of the underside here is just as impressive as it is everywhere else, just the same as the paintwork. So yet again, an absolutely killer Velociraptor from Nanmu. And then when we bring the other ones up, we don't really need to go over these so much, but we'll take a quick glance over them because you now have the male color, but for the alternate pose. So this time we have the raptor kind of standing up tall, like we saw on the female the first time around. But you now have, again, the male coloration for this one, just like we had the female coloration for it before, and you can see it looks just as beautiful as it did on that first version, that first raptor we had taken a look at. We can now see, though, the inside of the mouth, and one thing that is a little different on this one that you'll notice that you didn't really see on the other male version, since the mouth is open, we can see that the inside of the mouth does sport a slightly different tone of color for the inside of the mouth compared to what the female has. You can see it's more of like a lighter variation of a pink, whereas the female had a much darker variation of a pink on the inside of the mouth. So that's a nice little touch there, something I almost kind of glanced over and didn't even take note of But as you move down through the course of the body, again, the sculpt is definitely going to be the same, but that just means that, again, it's a really nice sculpt on both sides. However, the paint job, obviously, now is definitely the male Velociraptor. So I love this set because it gives you the option to have the Velociraptors in whatever pose you want. So if you want the male kind of standing up tall, you can do that. If you want the female standing up tall, you can do that. I like that Nanmu gave us the option to basically go with whatever version we want, or, of course, if you're like me, you go with both versions, and then you can have an entire, flock or pack, whatever you want to call it, of Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors. So the male in this sort of pose looks absolutely incredible, maybe even a little better than the other one. And then we have the female in the other pose, which you can see again. It's going to be the exact same sculpt as we had just seen on the male in this position, but obviously we have now replicated the female paint scheme on this one, giving you again the option to choose. But just looking at this, you can see, I think, just a little bit better as far as what the actual paint apps of this raptor look like, because the body's kind of scrunched a little bit more on the standing up tall version, whereas now the body's kind of, extended out a little more as it's walking, which I really feel like can give you a whole new appreciation of how good the actual paint apps are for the female version, for both versions, honestly, but specifically the female right now for this, again, raptor release from Nanmu. They are seriously, like, out of this world amazing Velociraptors. And if you're not a fan of the Jurassic Park franchise, then you're probably not going to be so sold on them like I am. But if you are a fan of the Jurassic Park franchise, then you're probably going to be completely head over heels in love with these raptor releases. So you can see, again, the female, when it comes to the kind of walking version, is absolutely fantastic, just like the standing up tall kind of vocalization type version. Then you've also got the base, and the base has a nice, very kind of jungle-like setting, and obviously this replicates the area where the raptors live in Jurassic Park 3, which is definitely what you would want to see, and I think they've replicated it perfectly with the overall appearance, with all the vines and the kind of like moss and stuff moving through. It looks exactly like the jungle that the Velociraptors live in Jurassic Park 3. We can also see the bag here. I'm not sure what bag that, I guess that would be the bag that Billy carries, but at the same time, I almost feel like maybe Udesky might have had a bag on him. I can't really recall. I would think it's probably going to be Billy's bag after he kind of takes the raptor eggs, and that would probably be the bag he was using to hold those. And you can see the footprints there for the raptors. And then as you move back up here, you've got a really nice log here, like a dead tree, and that as well has the vines kind of crawling all over it, also some moss and stuff moving through, which is all sculpted out on the base itself and painted beautifully. There is a lot of variation of color on this base. I would say the base is probably one of my favorites from Nanmu as well. They've provided us with some really nice bases on their releases before, but that just sports some of the most realistic sculpt and coloration I think I've seen overall on any Nanmu base. And then you of course have the underside, which shows us that this is the White Queen and Blood Knight, and also shows you the fact that this is a limited edition of 300, and I have 137. And then of course we also have the other base for the kind of winter type version, and you can see it's pretty much the same thing, except we now have given it very dull colors and also changed the coloration of the bag. But obviously we've just mostly got like a lot of browns and stuff now, and we're replicating what it would look like when it comes to a very cold, dead, wintry sort of a look for everything here, and I think they've replicated that perfectly as well. And it's just amazing when you look at the other one and how much life is, shown on that base with the way that they've painted it. And then you look at this being the exact same base, and now they've just given it browns, and they just changed the entire visual so nicely and so impressively. And again, of course, the same thing runs through the course of the entire base. It would be up to us to put the snow on it if we want to really complete the setting, but I'm probably, like I said, not going to put the snow on it because I feel like if I just put this next to the other one, it would still look pretty close to what you might see on Isla Sorna without actually looking too far off from the other base. And of course, if we put the snow on it, it's really going to look pretty far off, as I just smacked the lamp over here beside me as I was coming back in here. But you can see the underside of the base. Again, this as well is a 300 limited edition, and I have 222 for this one, getting pretty close with that one. But again, a really, really beautiful base. And then I'm not really going to show these guys off too much for each version. They're pretty much the same, but the little tiny bases that you have here for the Raptors, if you want to have them stand individually, again, have little nice earthy areas for them, and again, nicely painted. But then overall, you just have basically like a nice wood sort of a look. And then the underside, which is upside down on both of them, shows off again Blood Knight and White Queen. So unbelievable is easily the best way to describe this release, because these Raptors are seriously the single best Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors I have ever seen. And once you put them all on the bases, they look amazing. Yet again, you can see they look so cool, and they actually almost like the bases almost slide together to sort of put the two together and create, again, like just an entire pack of Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors. Absolutely incredible. And if you go and buy both, you can always, flip-flop the Raptors. Like I could put like this one on that base and have two females together, or two males together on this base. It's really your call, because they would definitely fit in the same spots. They're, of course, the same sculpts. As far as a size goes, though, if we go for a length on the standing version from the tail to the other side of the head, you're looking at about 7 3/4 inches, or a little over 19.5, closing on 20 centimeters. And for a height, now of course this is standing on the base, a little over 4 1/4 inches, or around 11 centimeters. And then for a height on this one, again, as far as the tallest point on the base, just about, I'd say about like 7 3/4 inches, or around 19.5 centimeters. So pretty nicely sized for a size comparison. There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pachylovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being here next to our Jurassic Park 3 Nanmu Velociraptors. And you can see they sport a pretty nice, pretty impressive size. Again, they're not huge, but they're pretty much exactly where I expected them to be, and I would imagine probably close to where you might think they would be for a Jurassic Park style Velociraptor. I don't know exactly why I just assumed they would be this size, but when I open them, sometimes I'm blown away by how impressively large something from Nanmu is. These came out exactly the size that I expected them to be, so hopefully this will help to give you an idea of that. And then for another size comparison, here is a Mattel Velociraptor. So if you happen to have any Mattel Raptors in your collection, you can see that they are very similar in size to the Nanmu version. Of course, if we put them here in the front, you'll see that the length is going to favor Nanmu, of course. But if you put them in like the same similar pose, you can see for the most part like the proportions are obviously a lot better on the Nanmu versions, but the overall size is kind of similar between a Mattel Raptor and these newest Nanmu versions. And then here is another very fun comparison, because as you can see right here, that is the older version of the Velociraptor from Nanmu. That is the Velociraptor Blue figure that they had released compared to the newer ones. Now, you can see such a major improvement when it comes to the quality, especially when it comes to the paint apps from the older Nanmu version to the newer one. Obviously, these newer ones are a masterpiece. Like, there's no way around that. It's a masterpiece. But the older ones, although pretty darn good, looking back on them now, it's pretty crazy to see just how much they've improved. Obviously, there's a large difference in size, so that could be a factor playing into why the paint apps aren't quite as nice as I feel like they could be if they were larger. But looking at this, it really would make me want to see a Velociraptor squad diorama as well from Nanmu at some point. So these brand new Nanmu Jurassic Park 3 style Velociraptors are, without a question, one of the most impressive releases, in my opinion anyway, that Nanmu has ever put out. These are nothing short of an absolute masterpiece. The sculpts are perfectly spot on. Sometimes you'll get sculpts from companies that they try to release like a Jurassic Park raptor. For instance, if we take a look at the Iron Studios one, the Just the Two Raptors model I had reviewed a little ways back, and you look at those, they look off in some areas. They just don't look right. They look weird to me, and that happens a lot with the Iron Studios models as a whole. But then when you move over here to look at these, like, these are so perfectly sculpted to look exactly like the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors, as far as I can recall, and I've watched that movie a lot, so I'm pretty sure they look exactly like the Raptors do. Again, even capturing the overall shape of the heads, the crest, everything is perfect on these Raptors. The only thing missing on them at all, of course, would be the quills on the male version, and that is, of course, like I said, something you could technically add yourself if you really wanted to. I'm sure you could just get some small wire or something, paint them up, and then glue them to the back of the head, and you'd be already set. I'm not too worried about it. I love the quills on the Raptor's head, but I wouldn't want to alter something as amazing as this. But the paint apps on these newest Raptors, I think, is the thing that impresses me the most, because although Nanmu always has great paint apps on their releases, there's no doubt about that, these paint apps seem even better than what you usually get from Nanmu. Like, I wouldn't even say just better, like a lot better. Nanmu always has very impressive paint jobs, but I feel like they've never been so spot on to the way the dinosaurs look than they are here with these. And there's just so much variation of color, and they've been expertly painted with washes and dry brushing techniques and everything to, again, replicate the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors in the most realistic and faithful way, and also just generally give me the single best Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors that I have ever seen in my entire life. Somehow even outdoing that W Dragon version that they had released a ways back. So, again, absolutely a phenomenal release from Nanmu. I'm not 100% sure at this point if they're still available to purchase, because again, as you saw, they were a limited edition of 300, and considering the popularity of the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors, I would not at all be surprised if they were sold out. However, I will of course include a link to the website where I did purchase them, which was from Lana Time Shop, so if there's any left over, you'll absolutely find them there. If not, there's plenty of other Nanmu models to choose from, but if you do have the opportunity to pick these up, I can't possibly recommend them enough. They really are an amazing addition to any Jurassic Park collection. So if you are interested, check the link in the description, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.